Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Had Leveling System with Red Dragon Emperor movie. Before we start, please go support Au.Moonbw for writing that awesome fanfic. Chapter 1. Absolute. The trains that run across Japan are ridiculously convenient things used every day by all sorts of people, and as such, they can attract some weird characters from time to time. Such as a young man reading a porn magazine in the open, without any shame or restrictions. The young man was wearing a pair of shoes, some jeans, and a red shirt, and seemed to have no other possession with him, besides his magazine. Workers tried to ignore him, some other young men of his age range seemed impressed with his courage, while the woman berated him, especially the ones with kids. And all kids had either their eyes or their ears covered. That was none other than Hyoudou Issei, a previous first-year student at Kuo Academy and a future second-year student. And he was unfazed by the looks and comments made towards him as he happily read through his magazine. Damn, Hitano-chan's last photo session was amazing. He said out loud, unconcerned about the reactions of those around him. In Kuo Town he was known as the pervert king, an absolute mad idiot that had no shame talking about the female body, porn and hex, no matter the time, place, or circumstances. He was open about his pervertedness like no one else. An absolute threat to society according to some female students of Kuo Academy. But just like as he is on the train right now, none of that ever seemed to bother Issei. Though currently, he wasn't in Kuo, actually he was a bit far from it. Yo. Suddenly, another young man approached Issei. Even during vacations, this newcomer was using his school uniform, even if it was ragged. He also had a jacket on his body and some piercings on his face. His expression seemed to scream trouble. Yo, how can I help you? Issei promptly closed his magazine and with a friendly smile, looked at the person that called for him. Instead of a man, he saw a fist coming in his direction. Everyone on the train was tense, praying for that to end fast as they did not want to get involved. However, the scene that they expected of the perverted being knocked out cold after receiving that punch did not happen. Instead, Issei was holding the fist with 2 fingers only. Widened eyes and shocked expressions were common across the passengers, while Issei looked slightly annoyed. Could you not? You are bothering everyone else. Issei said as he pushed the fist back, almost making the delinquent fall. His words, unfortunately, were ignored. So you are the Hyoudou Issei. The delinquent said, snapping his fingers and with a shitty grin. The one and only Issei said with a smug smile. So, guess you want to be beaten as well. Can you wait until we get to a better place? Issei asked nonchalantly as he just went back to reading his magazine. You won't be so full of yourself soon either way, so I am fine if waiting. Issei happily read his magazine, ignoring the weird and curious gazes sent to him. The delinquent sat down in his opposite direction, annoyed that the chestnut paid no attention to him. The tension on the train could be cut with a knife, and all the passengers thanked the heavens when they arrived at their station. As they got out, Issei went after the guy that challenged him. He already knew how these things went, so he just let him lead the way. If the delinquent paid attention he would have noticed that, as they went out of their wagon, the chestnut magazine had suddenly disappeared, however, he wasn't paying attention. Their stop was only a 5-minute walk from the station, and it had taken a bit longer as Issei stopped to buy a lollipop, much to his challenger annoyance. When they finally arrived, for the chestnut lack of surprise, waiting for him was a whole group of probably 10 to 15 men. You're done now, Hyoudou. As soon as he appeared, one of them screamed, bringing down on him a baseball bat. And you are the 59th to say that. Issei said casually. His only action was raising his right arm. And as a result, once the bat hit his arm it simply broke in half. The group locked gobsmacked, and the first to attack failed to react when Issei, in return, punched him in the face. The guy simply fell on the ground unconscious after one punch. Gee, get him. It wasn't clear who screamed, but after that, they all jumped at Issei. What followed was simple, at least for Issei. Barely having to dodge, and only doing so to avoid making his clothes get messier, and then punching or kicking someone, making them go down. It wasn't a fight, as it was too brief and unilateral to be called such. When it was all said and done, there was a bunch of unconscious delinquents on the ground as Issei finished his lollipop with not even a break of sweat. He walked to the nearest trash bin and threw the stick of the lollipop there before moving forward. What should I do first? Probably book a place for the night. He thought to himself, walking away, not paying attention to the groans of the pain of the ones he put down. After all, for the well-known strongest delinquent of Kuo, this was just another usual day. Any preference, Drag? He asked the red dragon living on his soul. I would prefer if you stopped a train before instead, those fools barely counted as a warm-up after all. True. I heard there are some nice bathhouses around here as well, so going there after training would be nice. Anything you want to eat? Maybe later. Drag said, and there was a hint of happiness in her voice. The dragon could not deny that it was quite enjoyable to have a host that treated her as a friend. I see, Hyoudou Issei, the current Red Dragon Emperor, as usual, but also he is still somewhat of a divergent. Yup, he will do. On the skies of the city, there was a figure with a huge cape covering his body. He looked down at Issei, murmuring to himself with a satisfied expression. His cape moved and the figure was no longer there, as if it never even were, to begin with. The sun was now setting, the whole afternoon had passed when Issei finally finished his training session. That was fun, but I need a bath. He commented to himself. Currently, he was only wearing his shoes and jeans, but put on a jacket since he was done training. In front of him was a destroyed landscape, something that normal humans would think could only be caused by either weapons or natural disasters. Do not forget to call your parents later. Drake reminded him, knowing her user can be a bit absent-minded sometimes. Noted. Bew, that can wait. The chestnut said as he took sweat out of his face. He was craving a bath now. Time to try one of those bathhouses. The Hyoudou said as he was happily whistling a song, going back in the town's direction. He was having quite the vacation. As a child, his perversion always got him in a bit of trouble, but also attracted all sorts of guys that wanted to beat him to look better. However, Issei was always naturally stronger than those of his age, and even above, so when he realized, he had already beaten down a lot of people. It was in this way he got his fame as a delinquent. And that fame attracted more people to beat down, until the delinquent king of Kuo became something akin to an urban legend. While Issei would be lying if he said that the feeling of liking a fight did not grow on him, he would be the first to say how annoying it is to be pulled in on when he is trying to enjoy some porn. And so, now having finished his first year of high school, his fame was quite high across delinquents in Japan. Usually, during this time of the year, that's when people, or as the Hyoudou would describe them, a bunch of useless guys with nothing better to do, would go to Kuo to challenge him. Not feeling like fulfilling the tradition this year, he managed to convince his parents to let him go on a trip around the country. He had to pay a huge price for it though. Study and be at the top of his class. It was hard, a lot of times he felt like he couldn't do it. Drake complaining about how pathetic it was to not be able to read some books did help his motivation, and finally, he was here. Partner. Something's wrong. Drake suddenly warned. The chestnut looked around startled but failed to see or sense anything out of place. Are you Sue? Before he could finish, lightning struck him down. Partner. Drake screamed, her mental connection with Issei showing that the boy went unconscious for a brief moment before waking up. It had barely passed seconds. Buck, I was using my favorite jacket. He complained, getting back on his feet. As unexpected as it was, it is only obvious a bit of lightning shouldn't take you down. Drake said, now calm again. Thanks for the support. He replied with clear irony. His clothing was a bit scorched and he had light burns on his face and around some parts of his body, but he was mostly fine. Only his hair was not burned, but it was a mess. There is not even a single cloud in the sky. How did? His words got stuck in his throat once he saw what was in front of him. A floating window, like a video game screen. It was blue, floating in front of his face. Instinctively, Issei tried to touch it, but his hands passed right through it. What is this damn thing? Even Drake, with her millions of years of experience, was unprepared for what she was witnessing. Absolute system. Downloading 93%. Player detected. Hyoudou Issei. Species. Human Kitsune descendants. Calculating the current level of experience, skills, and power. Download completed. Welcome, player, to the absolute system. Both the dragon and her wielder were looking at the window prompts, which showed up one after the other. They both had blank expressions, still absorbing what they were seeing. And then it sinks in. Oh, for great red's sake. There was one thing about being with her host, independently of whoever it was. The dragon would have access to most of the wielder's thoughts and memories, unless Drake herself blocked it. And, even if he had the fame of being a delinquent, Issei was still Issei, and as such, he was quite fond of what Drake described as pointless fictional stories, made to waste your time and achieve nothing, while Issei claimed them as pieces of art, the result of hardworking authors. Some of these stories belonged to a specific genre and niche. I got a system. Issei screamed at the top of his lungs. Are you hallucinating? Those are fictional things. Drake tried to reason, even if she herself was confused and unsure about this whole thing. Issei looked at the floating window that hadn't gone away and noticed that the prompts had changed. Firstly, why Drake gotch, the system is very real. Told you. And is even conscious. Classic move. Issei said smugly, to which Drake, in his mind space, simply rolled her eyes. Since she was more reassured that neither she nor her partner was hallucinating, after all, she would probably sense already if they were, she had no reason to not give this whole thing a chance. Secondly, player, please click the button to select your first second main skill. The skill will be acquired by looking through the multiversal catalog. Universal catalog. Like, powers from other worlds. Issei wondered with raised eyebrows. The words disappeared and a gray button appeared in the middle of the blue screen. Issei looked at it curiously for a few seconds before clicking it. The button was gone in the next instant and in its place was a roulette, of which neither of the two could take a look at what was written before it started spinning at a speed that even Drake failed to follow. What they could not know is that, after the name written in the countless spots of the roulette passed through the arrow on the top of the circle, it disappeared from the roulette, not to show up again. When is this damn thing going to stop? 5 minutes passed as Drake asked, already tired of looking to the unstoppable circle. Your guess is as good as mine. Issei replied shrugging, having sat down on the ground, with the roulette also coming down to follow the level of his eyes. Finally, the roulette started slowing down, and Issei and Drake managed to see various words that resembled titles or powers in the different spots of it. Heretic God. Lunar Scourge. Copy System. The Eyes of the Lord. Heir of the 9 Stars. It eventually stopped in the last front, Heir of the 9 Stars. At that moment information started flowing into Issei's head, things he never heard of, or had no way of even knowing how to do suddenly became common knowledge that felt like he had through all his life. It was extremely bizarre, he now knew and understood things he never even heard of before. First main skill selected. Heir of the 9 Stars. Adjusting and adapting to the player's new status. Calculating and attributing new skills. Finishing adjustments and changes. Do you know what an Heir of the 9 Stars is? Issei asked with furrowed eyebrows. The new knowledge made his head hurt a bit, but he was slowly adjusting to it. His knowledge of the supernatural was limited to yokai, kitsunes, dragons, and whatever Drake told him about, but it felt weird that he couldn't recognize any of those titles, as they all seemed like big deals. Plus, the things that were now on his mind, to which Drake also had access. I do not know. I've never even heard of any heretic god. It truly seems to be otherworldly powers. Hearing the red dragon's words, a huge smile formed on Issei's face, and in reality, Drake followed him. This is amazing. Ahahaha, watch out Albion. For different but relatively similar reasons, the two were very happy with this random but welcomed outcome. Calculations, adjustments, and updates completed. Would the player like to view his stats? YN. Without a shadow of a doubt, Issei clicked yes and the screen once more changed. Titles. Red Dragon Emperor, Perverted Dragon Emperor, Lost Fox, Delinquent Pervert, The Strongest Pervert, The Pervert Delinquent King, Heir of the 9 Stars, Heir of the True Lord of the 9 Stars, Hated by the World. He was nodding and grinning at all statuses until the last two, which made the Sekiryu very confused. Heir of the True Lord. And hated by the world. Is my fame as a pervert so bad? He asked with crossed arms and a confused expression. I do not think is so simple. We will probably learn about this more as things go, let's keep looking. Drake also felt this was very weird, but as they lacked information, she advised Issei to just keep looking. Main skill S. 9-star Hegemon Body Art. The warriors of the 9 stars are the manifestation of daring and determination in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Recognized as the bravest and most fearsome warriors, they are not afraid of death and never give up before their adversary. Armed with their wills unyielding, they defy the heavens. Despite their fall, their will is eternal. As long as the stars exist, they will continue to fight for eternity. However, the war is long gone, and no, you are the heir of the 9 stars that came after the Chosen One, the Lord of the 9 stars, making you the heir of the True Lord. Your 9-star Hegemon body art is modified to follow the Chosen One, the Lord. So that's why as heir of the True Lord I feel like some big shot now. Issei said, faking a prideful pose, making Drake roll her eyes at her wielder's antics. Still, this is all very impressive. I very much like the sound of these heirs of the 9 stars, they sound like amazing and true warriors. Satisfied with what they saw until now, they kept looking. Boosted gear Red Dragon Emperor. The one that rampaged through the war of the 3 factions is now sealed in your soul, and you must carry on through his eternal battle against his, and now your, rival, Albion, the White Dragon Emperor. Even if you were not born as one, this gear gives you the traits and characteristics of a dragon, making you practically one by everything but the body. By the powers of the Dragon of Domination, you can boost yourself, increasing your powers twice per boost. So that's why the system crossed the 9-star Hegemon body art as my first main skill. Issei said in realization. As it should heir of the 9 stars or not, you are firstly the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei smiled and nodded, wholeheartedly agreeing with Drake's words. Status. Species. Human Kitsune descendants the Red Dragon Emperor. Level. 16 2.10051.181. Talent rank. B++. HP. 1500. Sta. 2000 2000s. Bra. 1500. Ick. 1000 1000s. STR. 215. X. 199. Res. 207. AGI. 199. Int. 67, 77. WIS. 50. CHR. 68. LCK. -30. Status points. 176 SP cannot be distributed to LCK. Why the buck is my luck so low? The chestnut scream could be heard throughout the whole forest. Even Drake lacked words, not believing how unlucky her partner was. It didn't make sense, Drake already had some unlucky users before, but even then, she doubt that, if put in numbers, their luck would be as bad as a negative value. An explanation of the issue did not take long to show up. As heirs of the 9 stars fight against the limits imposed by the world, they are hated by its laws. Bad luck is a common trait among them, even the chosen one suffered greatly with it. The Kitsune descendant and the dragon simply looked at the words, blinking a few times. There's no free meal in this world, huh? Issei said, his previous excitement was a bit gone. Indeed, but on the bright side, you just acquired a power great enough to make the laws of a whole world wary of you. Greg pointed out, already getting past the surprise of the negative luck. As if that was a good thing. I am not a troublemaker like you. There was a long moment of silence, as even Issei failed to believe his words. Coughing embarrassed, he went back to look at his status, now scared of what surprise might come up. Skills. Aimer Body Max, allow the user body to be like that of a game, with limitless potential. Aimer Mind Max, immune to mental disorder, calms the user and allows him to stay in a peaceful, the user's definition of peaceful state of mind. Boost Max, it doubles all your status per boost. Each boost is done automatically after 10 seconds, and each boost takes 50 points of your stamina. Does not apply to int, WIS, CHR, and LCK. Dragon Shot LV4, concentration of draconic energy in the user's fingertips that can be shoot. The use of draw varies per shoot, ranging from 10 to 100, not the limit, it can still go further. Explosion Max, it stops the boosts at their current value, reducing stamina by 30 every half a minute the user keeps it on. Transfer Max, the user can transfer boosts to different targets, boosting them instead. Can apply to objects, attacks, or live beings. No cost, but the transfer has a chance to not pass 100% of the boost. Disguise LV18, the user hides their energy from other beings, allowing them to pass by as a normal mortal. Firefox LV6, through atavism the user has in himself the genes of a kitsune, enhancing him in various ways and giving himself control over Firefox, a blue fire that burns much more strongly than usual forms of fire. The use of Yaki to make use of this ability varies according to the amount of fire used. High Fire Resistance LV1, as a dragon and a kitsune descendant, it takes a superior type of fire to hurt you. Strong Punch LV15, a punch of concentrated strength. The strength of the punch is your current STR multiplied by 2. Can give the target an effect of dizziness sometimes. Strong Kick LV13, a kick of concentrated strength. The strength of the punch is your current STR multiplied by 2. Can give the target an effect of dizziness sometimes. Headbutt LV14, throwing your forehead in your enemy's direction for an extra punch. The power is the sum of the user res and STR. Dash LV13, a fast movement towards the front of the user. It can cause damage if the user hits someone, and the power is based on the user's Agi and res. Intimidation LV7, with your presence and strength you can exert pressure under your enemy's will. Fire Punch LV7, by using your Firefox control, you surround your hands with flames and punch. Increases damage and has a 90% chance of giving the burn status. 10 Yaki Peruse. Fire Kick LV6, by using your Firefox control, you surround your feet with flames and punch. Increases damage and has a 90% chance of giving the burn status. 10 Yaki Peruse. Fireball LV5, use your Firefox to form a sphere and shoot it. Takes a minimum of 10 Yaki to do it, but the value might increase according to the fireball size. Fire Tornado LV3, using your Firefox to form and control a tornado. Takes 100 Yaki Peruse. Fire Slash LV5, a slash of fire cast by slashing with the hand. Takes 15 Yaki to peruse. Projection LV8, by projecting Firefox in both hands the user can float and move at high speeds in a limited manner. Projected Dash LV2, a combination of the DAWs and projection skills. Power depends on Agi, STR, and res. Destructive Disc LV3, a concentration of draconic aura and disc format with sharp edges and high cutting capabilities. Takes 50 draw peruse. Special Dragon Fox Cannon LV3, a powerful beam made of draconic aura and Firefox that is charged through the fingers. Takes 50 draw and Yaki peruse. Dragon Fox Devastation Wave LV1, a combination of Draconic Aura and Fire Fox, is a concentrated attack of energy that mixes the two in a blast of destructive force. Takes 100 Yaki and Draconic Aura per second of use. Resist LV14, the user defends his head with his arms and tenses the muscles of his body as he is beaten down. Multiplies his res by 2. Grab LV12, the user grabs someone or something, carrying it around as a weapon or throwing it at others. The power of this skill can do is calculated by the user STR2 and Dex2. The one being thrown has a chance of acquiring the dizziness effect. Basic Martial Arts LV8, after years of fighting in the streets with many experienced fighters, the user acquired some basic understanding of martial arts and how to carry himself in a fight. It makes his stamina consumption during a fight more efficient and increases his XP gain per martial move used skill. Alchemy LV1, as the heir of the Lord, following the path of alchemy is a must. Alchemy knowledge about the pills necessary to advance through the 9-star hegemon body art and alchemy knowledge, in general, is in your brain and soul. Adds +10 to int status. After seeing all of that, Issei could not help but whistle impressed. He obviously knew all of those skills, except for alchemy, as he had developed them, but seeing it in a list as if it was game skills was amazing. You have quite the arsenal, partner. Even I will admit this system thing looks impressive. Even Drake had to praise the system after witnessing all that. The fact that the system would give them a chance to beat down the hacker Yuku in what Drake hoped could be an absolute manner played a great part in the Red Dragon's good impressions. The skills I made as a kid are very underused, I will have to work on that. And how do I even get the ingredients for the first pill? You were living a carefree life, but now it seems things will be very busy. Both were very excited by the perspective this new and strange power could bring to them. At that moment a new window popped up. First quest arrived. Chapter 2. Tutorial First Quest. I am liking this. I am intrigued, to say the least. Those were both Issei and Drake's respective thoughts as they read the content on the floating screen, assigning the Seker Yuete to his first quest, right after getting his system. While Issei was happier than a child that knew they would get their most wished present on Christmas Eve, Drake was, while not skeptical, still unsure and even doubtful of the whole thing. But since they needed time to understand and discover more, she was rolling with it. First quest. Easter egg. Something otherworldly fell in these lands and is currently in the hands of morons. What wouldn't be so bad if that's how things were supposed to go, but kinda that, maybe, it isn't so, fix my mess, I mean, find the item, stop the idiots, and get the rewards. Conditions. Find the item. Maybe beat down some morons unrequired, but would be funny, perhaps. Rewards. Full functions unlocked. Other rewards to be announced. It was an interesting read if anything. This is very unusual. So, this is what people refer to when they mention those so-called scams. The very informal language, the weird structure of the message, and the fact that their reward would still be announced, were not very convincing, to say the least. Though she was still interested in the powers this could bring to Issei. If this is a system, it means there is or was an administrator. I am guessing we got a mission straight from them. Contrary to Drake, Issei was very enthusiastic with this whole perspective, though admittedly, he was a bit confused with various things, like the purpose and objective of this quest. If the being that gave you this power is so capable and powerful, shouldn't they be able to deal with this themselves? Drake pointed out. This was one of the main reasons she wasn't still on board with this whole system idea. Though, Issei simply shrugged. Maybe there are limitations in what this administrator can do or something. That did make Drake consider something that she didn't before. Indeed, perhaps Great Red, intentionally or not, keep such being away from here, at least physically. Issei nods, seeing the logic of that thinking. He was familiar with who Great Red was, though the idea of a gigantic dragon floating around in a chaotic gap through space was still a bit hard to grasp in scale for him. Attached to the quest was a virtual map of the city he was in, with an area of a few blocks highlighted by another circle. This doesn't seem to be a coincidence. The chestnut points out. It seems that one of the reasons you received this is that you were already near enough to solve their issue. Drake said, in agreement with her host. This also made her put a bit more faith in the system. If it was a free gift, the Red Dragon would be wary of it, but instead, since this seems to be the reward for some task his user had to carry, it was more understandable. Let's get going, this won't solve itself alone, and I want to see the rewards. The Seker Yuete said with a huge grin, making the Red Dragon sigh. However, even Drake would be lying if she said she wasn't interested in what will happen after the quest. In the blink of an eye, Issei had disappeared from the forest. Wait a second. Drake suddenly said when they approached the general area where the item was, according to the map. Issei was standing at the top of a utility pole, looking around the city. While one might assume people would notice him, firstly by using the disguise skill, he not only passed unnoticed already by most, but there was also the factor that not as many people looked up, allowing the chestnut to pass by. What? The user of the boosted gear asked, curious as to what reason Drake would stop him. You acquire those skills by doing something, right? She asked. Her knowledge comes from both the fact that all the skills Issei had shown were based on things he had done before, plus the type of stories he read. I am pretty sure it works like that. Why? Let's try to create a skill then. Don't look at the map, simply meditate and try to sense any energy that could be out of place. The Red Dragon Emperor suggested. Issei put a hand on his chin, with a curious expression. Good idea, well, I will try. He said, sitting down on the pole, putting his legs in a lotus position and closing his eyes. It wasn't like Issei couldn't feel energy, or that he didn't have practice with it a lot, but what he was capable of before and what he is doing now are two different things. For most supernatural beings, feeling energy is just a normal sense for them, such as hearing or tact. What Issei was doing now was not that. It was the difference between looking at something and aiming at something. His ancestry also helped with that, the Taki making things a bit easier. It wasn't long after that he felt something, a foreign signature of energy that neither he nor the red dragon in his soul could recognize. It wasn't big or threatening, but now that they felt it, it stood out like a sore thumb. New skill acquired. Detection LV1, by focusing your senses almost nothing can escape the user's perception. It has the potential to pinpoint and localize whatever the user attempts to. Neat. There was a huge smug smile on the chestnut's face. I must admit, this is convenient. Even Drake approved the efficiency of the system. It wasn't only because it made the skill though. Right after the skill showed up, Issei could feel a difference. He felt as if it was easier to do what he was just doing, as if now he could see and understand the natural path to follow. Isn't it? Issei replied with a huge grin that belonged to someone that knew that they would be having a lot of fun. Okay, let's be done with this soon, I can barely wait to see what other functions can be unlocked. Saying that he once more disappeared from where he was standing, thanks to moving at high speed. At least high enough speed to pass unnoticed by normal humans. Do you have any idea what this thing does? The man asked his colleague, who had a curious object in his hands. No clue, but look at it, it has to be fantastic, it could be just the break our research needed to have a breakthrough. The man with said object in hand said with excitement. And how exactly this can help us? A third one asked. He had his arms crossed and an unconvinced expression. The object of their discussion was an egg that had an eggshell that looked like space. Instead of white it was dark with bright stars. It looked as if the surface of the egg showed an actual part of the universe, with ever-moving falling stars. If one looked at that egg they would inevitably feel some sort of attraction to it. Maybe for some, it would be the same attraction they feel as looking at a piece of art, it would be beautiful and curious to look at, but the feeling stopped there. However, others would feel as if looking at that egg they could feel and understand something, but could never point out what it was. It was as if they had an almost complete puzzle, but were missing key parts. It was both frustrating and intriguing. The three men had this particular feeling. They were three mages, hence they used cloaks and the usual gear. They had coincidentally found the egg on the day prior, after a storm. And since then, they had attempted to study it but were still empty-handed. So those are our guys, and that's the thing. On the top of the warehouse, the three mages were in. Issei watched them below, recognizing both because of his new skill and of his map, the object he should retrieve for his mission. His eyes went to the weird egg, focusing on it. He, like the mages, felt like it had more to that egg. Issei couldn't help but have his attention focused on it, to try to decipher what item that was. Partner. Ray called, noticing that Issei was focusing too much on the item. Unfortunately, his observation would not make him understand any more about the egg than the mages, but it did reward him with something. New skill acquired. Analysis LV1, once the user focuses on an item or another being, they can receive specific information about them. The information will vary depending on the item and the power level of the being, considering the skill's own level. Detection leveled up to level 2. Besides acquiring analysis, his most recently developed skill also was improved. For Issei, that was good enough. Sorry Drake, just got distracted with something. It is fine, I was just worried for a moment if that thing could have any effect on your mind. She explained, to which Issei nodded, understanding where the worry had come from. I don't know if it has. Let me see if I can get anything from this. He said as attempted to use analysis at the egg. Item. Description. And it wasn't helpful at all. It is an item that came from another world and is regarded as important by the being that gave you these powers. This is the inevitable result of trying to peek through something that is beyond your current league. Bragg explained, not surprised. It did not mean she wasn't curious about what that thing was, but having lived for millions of years, she could contain that curiosity and focus on the important parts. True. The only thing left is to take it then. Issei said as he pointed to one of the mages with his right hand, preparing to hit him with a dragon shoot. Though, before it, he decided to use analysis one more time, but on the mage now. Name: Marcus. Race: human. Status: alive. Class: low-class mage. Description: came from a not renamed family of mages and has been trying, to no avail, to join some big organization to improve the conditions for his research. The Sekiryute's eyes went wide at that. He didn't expect to get so much information about a person at once. Analysis leveled up to level 2. New skill acquired. Stealth LV1, passing undetected and moving through the shadows, lurking after others without their knowledge. This skill gives you a better chance of passing unnoticed. The skill leveling up was a welcome surprise though, and so was the new skill. Even if Issei probably wouldn't use it a lot since he wasn't a stealthy person. I did not think this power could be so useful, but this is perfect for gathering information. The red dragon said, already thinking about the various possibilities this could give. For example, learning about the current holder of the white dragon as soon as they meet could give them an edge in their battle. Though, for the first time in what probably was Drake's whole existence, she wasn't all that concerned about their future fight against Albion. Spending time with Issei had been more interesting. Slightly so. Not that she would admit it. This might be a good opportunity to practice with the system a little. Wanna have fun? The chestnut asked with a huge grin. I don't see why not. And Drake just matched that grin. At that moment, Issei finally prepared to shoot his dragon shoot. It was only then that one of the mages, feeling the sudden spike in energy near them, knew something was wrong. Though, it was too late. Dragon shoot. They just heard someone announce from the roof and in the next instant, a sphere of energy hit Marcus, knocking him down. Dragon shoot leveled up to level 5. Shit. One of the mages screamed in fright seeing that scene. Sorry guys, nothing personal. Jumping from the roof straight to the ground, the Sekiryute declared casually. He snapped his fingers and stretched his arms, not seeming to be too wary of the last two mages. In the meantime, he also used analysis. Name: Saito. Race: human. Status: alive. Class: low-class mage. Description: came from a normal human family, but one day coincidentally came in contact with a book about the principles of magic and learned his potential for the subject. Unfortunately, he never got too far on it as his talent is low. Name: Kai. Race: human. Status: alive. Class: low-class mage. Description: his father was a mage, but left his mother early. Only in his teenagerhood he learned about his heritage and started his path as a mage. He was quite enjoying the analysis skill. Who are you? I screamed in panic. He was the one holding the egg and attempted to hide it to no avail. The guy that has to get that egg. He said in the most casual voice possible for the Sekiryute, stunning both mages. They looked at each other and then looked at the newcomer, who was still facing them with no particular expression, and looked at their friend knocked out on the ground. He was alive and breathing, but would probably stay out of it for a while. Why do you want the egg? Saito asked, trying to hold for a time while they mentalized the equations for spells to attack Issei. I don't want it, but someone asked me to get it back, so. It's not like he wanted to knock all those guys down, so, after already taking one of them and coincidentally getting Dragon Shoot to up a level, he was feeling like that was already good enough. Having said that, Issei wouldn't complain if the two decided to try him, some more chance to practice his skills after all. And why should we even believe you? I asked, looking at Issei as if he was mental. Because you know what? Fair enough. The chestnut even considered attempting a negotiation, but gave up considering the situation and their reaction to him. The fact that negotiating also wasn't the fun option played a role in his decision, much for Drake's amusement. Now binding bones of steel. Thinking that he would get the newcomer by surprise, Saito finally cast his spell. A magical circle appeared in his hands that was pointing to Issei. Of it, chains got out, wrapping themselves around the Sekiryute, who just looked at it with curiosity. Ah god you asshole. I celebrated, but it was short-lived as Issei simply opened his arms, ripping all the chains apart. Wanna say that again? The chestnut asked with a grin while applying intimidation to the two. The two mages felt their hearts beating faster, cold sweat covered their bodies. For a moment they considered giving up, but since it was their future as mages that could be at risk, the two shallowed their fear and attacked. Cutting air. It was Kai that attacked. Out of his magical circle came out slashes of air aimed at the Sekiryute. In response Issei also attacked with a slash, his fire slash skill. Blue fox fire covered his hands as he easily cut through the air attack. Fox fire? Are you half yokai? Saito asked, shocked after seeing the fire and feeling the similar signature of energy. No, but once someone in my family decided it was a good idea to buck with a fox girler guy, and now I am here. If anything, I envy them. Issei said with a simple shrug. He had learned about this when he was a kid, thanks to Drake. When he had first awakened her, she had noticed something different from a human being in him. After just a bit of looking at him, she came to the conclusion he was a kitsune descendant. She had never met a kitsune before but had general knowledge about them. The mages were a bit stunned by that. Issei used that brief confusion and dashed behind Kai, where he was holding his egg. Thank you for this. He said, easily taking the egg from Kai's hands. The mages weren't too physically strong as well. New skill acquired. Steel LV1, the ability to take what belonged to others and make it yours, be it by force or stealth. And a new skill that maybe he would make use of or not. Hey, give that back. Before Saito could reach to try to retake the egg, Issei showed up behind him and hit his neck, making him fall unconscious. Shit. And Kai followed right after, not being able to dodge Issei's attack. Got tired of playing? The Hyoudou nodded to the Empress's question. Yeah, figured there was nothing more I could get from these guys, so no point in it. I feel kinda bad for them, so. He reached into his wallet and took some money out of it, almost everything he had. It's not a lot, but it will compensate, I guess. He said, leaving the money on top of one of the three. He was about to go out of the warehouse when a thought occurred and he looked at their capes. Item. Rudimentary cape. Description. A cape made out of cheap supernatural material meant to reduce the damage caused by other spells cast against the user. Does not work against physical attacks. And just to be sure, he looked at another one of those capes. The item and description were the same, but analysis has leveled up to level 3. It had given him enough to level up analysis. Happily whistling, Issei finally went out. I thought that after leveling it up something would show up, but I still have nothing. Issei said after trying to analyze the egg, only to get the same result as before. It is useless. A shame, I am as curious about this as you. The two could only look at the weird and mysterious object while getting nothing out of it. By now it was becoming a waste of time. Since his options were limited to one, he opened his quest window again. First quest. Easter egg. Something otherworldly fell in these lands and is currently in the hands of morons. What wouldn't be so bad if that's how things were supposed to go, but kinda that, maybe, it isn't so, fix my mess, I mean, find the item, stop the idiots, and get the rewards. Conditions. Find the item. Maybe beat down some morons unrequired, but would be funny, perhaps. Rewards. Full functions unlocked. Other rewards to be announced. Without delay, Issei clicked yes. Chapter 3. The Creator Explanations. The moment Issei clicked yes, a new window opened with the words, deliver the item here at the top of it. And the Hyoudou proceeded to do just as instructed, putting the egg at the window. Admittedly, both he and Drake were vastly curious as to what would happen after that. They watched as the egg went through the window, passing through the small portal, and then, Issei blinked, and he wasn't in his world anymore. He was in what looked like space, but not dark, instead, it had all types of colors changing again and again. It wasn't nauseating though, it was fascinating. Besides that, all over the place, there were what looked like to be galaxies. It was a surreal scenario. Greg? Issei asked with the slightest hope that the Empress would know or at least have an idea where they were. I do not know, but I believe we will get an explanation soon enough. She said, manifesting her voice through the boosted gear that appeared in Issei's hand. That is a fair assumption, Dragon Empress. The voice declared, sounding from everywhere. Issei looked around surprised, it sounded both close and far at the same time, and it was at a moment deep and at the next high pitch, and even then, it didn't sound too weird, just like it was supposed to work like this. You're the system's administrator? The chestnut asked while looking everywhere, unsure of where his attention should be. Oh, right, this will probably be easier for you if you can see me. As soon as the administrator finished saying that a body appeared in front of Issei. Or to be more accurate, it was only the silhouette of a human body, as it had no actual characteristics to it, simply looking like an alive mannequin. Except that it was well endowed, with huge breasts, a thin waist, and a large ass. The female form is the one I am most comfortable with, in case you are curious. I also like these. The administrator said, stretching the body and then grabbing and squeezing the breasts. I see, I also like them. Issei said, his eyes looking at the large breasts for a moment before looking at the face. Though, it wasn't like there was a lot to look at, as the administrator lacked yes or anything else, really. Greg rolled her eyes at her user's antics, though she was more entertained than annoyed. So, any questions to begin with? The chestnut crossed his arms thoughtfully. Wait, let me try. The thought hit him and Issei attempted to use analysis on the administrator. Name. Race. Interdimensional spirit of randomness. Status. Class. Description. An embodiment of the concept of randomness. Issei looked at that description and got more confused than he already was previously. Drake was less speechless and more interested in that being. I imagine this is confusing for you, so let me elaborate. As you saw, I am randomness incarnated. This means I understand the universes down to their core and most chaotic and confusing principles. That's why my species can create something so utterly bucking amazing as the absolute system. As the creator of the system went on, they became less interested in keeping a formal way of speaking. Well, originally we wanted to call it super system, but Genrui learned about it and we were not about to start a fight with a guy that surpassed the origin, so we changed it slightly so he would not complain. Both Issei and Drake tuned out the last part as just rambling, at least until they heard the system's creator saying that they would avoid a fight. You're not a warrior. Since the creator said their species understood the universes in a core manner, Drake had assumed they were utterly powerful beings. But the knowledge that they avoided a fight contradicted that. My species are not strong or even made for battles. We understand the core principles of the universe and most importantly, the rules behind it because we were made on it. In summary, we are only capable of modifying but not creating. Issei and Drake heard with full attention, interested in the subject. Now, about this thing. The creator said, referring to the egg. It is quite simple actually. It is a species of bird, I guess. I mean, it might be the closest thing you guys have never thought about that before. Either way, they are birds that travel through dimensions. Issei tilted his head, imagining an everyday bird opening portals and traveling through different worlds. Drake on the other hand thought of something more akin to a phoenix in appearance, that with each flap of its wings would travel to another universe. Why that would be a problem for our world. Leaving those thoughts to the side, the Red Dragon Empress asked. You know what happens when a being from a certain ecosystem enters one unprepared for it. If the creator's face had any details, the Kitsune descendant and Red Dragon thought they would be showing them an eyebrow. It wouldn't end well, right? Mentally, Drake nodded to Issei's words, and the creator did so physically. The energy consumption the bird would cause alone could lead to a catastrophe that shouldn't originally happen. And as much as my people are all about randomizing things, we try to avoid making such a mess that can destroy a world. The creator said, shrugging. And how exactly that egg came to our world? Drake asked, looking for clarification, and Issei was also quite interested in how that came to be. I was just getting across a world when I accidentally started a chain of events that ended well here. The two just nodded, even if the creator couldn't see Drake nodding. The fact that they were in front of the manifestation of randomness made that explanation, that in any other context sound crazy, quite believable. Any more questions? The creator said, tilting their head. Yes, where are we? The Sekiryuite asked, looking around at the weird space they found themselves in. I pushed your mind out of DXD. I can't go there because of, well, you know him as Great Red, so let's go with that. It was the explanation he got. So, I am out of my world, Issei said, whistling, as he looked around. What do you mean by DXD though? Don't worry about it. Any other questions? Seeing as the creator wouldn't elaborate on whatever DXD meant, Issei went for the last thing left on his mind. How the system works. Once more the two wished the creator had expressions because after hearing the question, they could swear it almost seemed like they wanted to smile. It's all based on energy. When you do an action, it generates energy and creates or upgrades a skill. When you kill, it generates energy that gives the experience for you to level up, and this energy is converted into status. The points are also energy created by certain actions, mostly killing, and can be converted into many things because they are also energy. In summary, the system is dependent solely on you, which creates the energy for it to work, and in compensation, it gives you power. The long explanation impressed Issei and Drake, that heard the whole time mindfully. They took their time thinking about it and doing so got to a simple conclusion. You mean that, as long as enough energy is given, the system can do anything? Once more, if the creator had an actual face, the two swore they would be smiling. Exactly. Issei gulped, his mind overwhelmed by the possibilities. At the same time that he felt like he understood the sheer absurdity of it all, he still felt like he failed to grasp it. Drake on the other hand was grinning like a madwoman. Oh, this will be good. Forget about Albion, okay, not completely, but still. Whatever new hacker Yuku came would be child's play now. While Issei could only understand a little of the possibilities because of his limited life experience, Drake imagined countless possibilities, while knowing she had yet to see everything else the system offered currently. So, you just give this system to anyone? Issei asked, bewildered. That felt like too much power to be given, well, randomly. However, the creator shook their head. If my people did so, the multiverse would be in chaos and we would already have been slayed a long time ago. We avoid those naturally ill-intended and evil. Our systems are only attracted by those that are either good or neutral in nature. The explanation relieved Issei a bit as he could understand how fast things could go bad if the system fell into the wrong hands. What do you mean by attracted? Drake asked, having been interested in the choice of words. The systems by design randomly choose someone after they are made. I didn't choose as this is not the way of my people. Though, I was fortunate that you were where needed actually, maybe this was a choice made by the system itself. Curious, no. The two nodded, even if the creator could only see Issei. Either way, I believe this to be enough, but let me just. The creator waved their hands in Issei's direction. He looked at himself and around, but neither saw nor felt anything different. You did something. You will see soon. That's enough, goodbye. Before the chestnut had the chance to say anything else, he felt that the floor disappeared and he was falling. When he noticed his surroundings, he was back in the same place before his whole meeting with the system's creator. That was interesting. Braid commented with amusement. Yeah, that it was. Issei said, scratching his head. Think we will ever meet them again? Braid shook her head. I very much doubt it. But let's not think of what we cannot control, look at your system. A huge smile formed on Issei's face upon hearing Drake's reminder. He wasted no more time and opened the system. Quest Easter egg completed. Calculating and distributing rewards. System updating. Update completed. Congratulations, you leveled up to level 17. Without wanting to waste a second more, Issei opened his status window. He ignored the bits he had already seen before and focused straight on the new additions. Traits. Barbaric Strength V, Precision V, Enhanced Body V, X Speed V, Fast Mind I, Enhanced Spirit I, Attractive I, Bad Luck I. What are traits? He could see that they were related to his status but didn't know their function. The explanation came as soon as he asked. Physical traits work like skills, they must be activated by you and take stamina to do so. While traits of int, wis, chr and lck are always passively active with no cost to it. Sounds cool. And that was how Issei summarized it. He had an understanding of what they were now, but knew he would only get it when actually seeing them take effect. Though he did feel like his thoughts were clearer and faster already. Below the traits, there were now two other additions. EP Dungeon Points, 10. Points. 0. He and Drake had a rough idea of what they meant and just kept looking. If no explanation was given eventually, they would just ask the system. The skills were still the same, nothing had changed in that regard. Having checked everything on this window, Issei looked at the other four new additions. Personal Fortress. Originally the user should have an inventory, however, as the user already has a storage function, thanks to the boosted gear, the inventory was substituted to a movable fortress dungeon. By using DP dungeon points you can customize your fortress dungeon. DP can be acquired by quests or in dungeons. You can choose who enters and who does not. The fortress is always with you, you can enter it whenever you want. Currently, you still need to start building it, so there is no fortress dungeon yet. My own personal and customizable dungeon. Issei asked with stars in the place of his eyes. Being a dungeon master, controlling an army of mobs, preparing traps, and so on, all of those possibilities passed through his head in an instant, and he very much liked all of them. A place to guard and gather treasure. I approve of it. And of course, as a dragon that once also had her own treasures, Drake also liked this function. Shop. You can buy almost anything here, using points. The shop is divided into two sections, the section where anything can be bought constantly, as long as you have the points necessary, and the section where is one time only, after buying it is permanently yours, and it might not go back to the system. Points can be acquired by killing, or by doing hexwell activities, the system customized this based on the user's preferences. The number of points varies per time and type of activity. Anything? Issei's eyes widened at that. If this description was to be believed, then there truly might be no limit to what the system could do. This was just getting better and better. Dungeon seeking. The system is constantly looking for rifts in space to be used to create dungeons. Once one is found, the user must expand the necessary amount of DP dungeon points to stabilize the space and allow the user to travel to the dungeon. DP can be acquired by time 1 DP is gained per hour, by killing the creatures inside dungeons 1 DP per kill, and by completing the dungeon and any quests inside it. So that's what DP means. The chestnut nodded his head in understanding. Sounds useful for training. Bragg also gave an approving nod. Well, deep down everyone likes a bit of grinding. Dragon cards. As your luck is now negative, some of the functions can no longer be accessed and as such, were substituted by the dragon system. By acquiring dragon cards, you will achieve dragon powers that are not related to why Drake Gotch. As there are countless types of dragons throughout your world and the multiverse, the powers you can acquire are limitless. I love it. While the chestnut didn't know what he had to lose to get this power, he did not care as he wouldn't exchange these dragon cards for anything else. Though he still had no idea how to acquire them. Well, they would learn eventually. Any dragon. Drake on the other hand directly thought of 2 specific dragons of insane power. She wasn't sure if that was exciting or scared. Alchemy function. LV1. An internal cauldron created by the system will allow the user to make use of his skills in alchemy, substituting usual cauldrons. The more pills created here, the more the cauldron will level up, allowing for better products. A little thanks for your help, I believe it will be useful for you. So that was the gift. Damn, nice. I only need the ingredients to start the 9-star hegemon body art now. Having inherited the alchemical knowledge to practice the 9-star hegemon body, plus countless other alchemical formulas, Issei, besides the ingredients, only lacked a cauldron. He believed that the shop would probably be able to provide it for him, but now he got one without wasting points, and one that would even evolve alongside him. Even with his luck being so dogshit, things were going great until now. Perhaps now would be a great moment to take a break and consider our next steps. Drake reminded, making the chestnut notice it was starting to get dark. He still needed a bath, a place to sleep, and to call his parents. "You're right, I better get going." The call with his parents had been eventful. They seemed very happy that he had taken his vacations outside of Kuo, as they now had a lot of time without having to worry about fights breaking out of nowhere. Finding a place wasn't so hard, and he could swear it felt like his charisma trait was already working. Currently, Issei was in the hot springs, relaxing his body while looking up. He wasn't looking at the stars though, as he had the shop open in front of his eyes. 9 yin grass, 5 points. Earth dragon root, 5 points. Flame seed, 5 points. In total, he would need more than 30 types of medicinal herbs to refine the wind manor pill. The cost of total points would be around 165 points, while currently, he had an impressive number of 0. I need to go for a dungeon. He could barely wait to start practicing the 9-star hegemon body art, but he lacked the funds. And he was so badly wanting to try a dungeon as well, however, that needed to wait until the system found one. Knowing the state of his luck now. Let's focus on what we can change. Fortunately, Drake was here to be the voice of reason. True. But the thought, his status window was in front of him again. It was finally time to check it properly. Level. 17,066.535. Talent rank. B++. HP. 60-15-60-15. Star. 80-20-80-20. Ra. 37-27-37-27. Ick. 2485-2485. STR. 221. X. 205. Res. 213. AGI. 205. Int. 73-83. WIS. 56. CHR. 74. LCK. -30. Status points. 182 SP cannot be distributed to LCK. If he wasn't in a public space with other people around, Issei would have screamed at the top of his lungs. Sure, the status didn't change a lot, but his HP, stamina, draconic energy, and Yauki had reached an insane level all by a simple level up. This system is busted. A huge smile formed on his face. This system is busted. And he couldn't be happier. If I had any doubts before, now I am convinced. Even Drake was impressed by the transformation he passed through. Sure, his overall power and status didn't increase by that much, but by pure HP, stamina, draconic energy, and Yauki, he would be able to bully his previous self to defeat. Still, he had a lot of status points to add and get even stronger. It was a bit insane to think he would grow in power so much in such a short time, but he wasn't about to complain. Without further ado, he started raising his status. 29 points added to strength, 45 to dexterity, 37 to resistance, and 45 to agility, leaving only a few points to the rest, so he distributed accordingly. The result was the following. STR. 250. Dex. 250. Res. 250. AGI. 250. Int. 80, 90. WIS. 60. CHR. 80. LCK. -30. Status points. 9 SP cannot be distributed to LCK. And to think he had so many status points a few seconds ago. He didn't even try to increase luck as the result would be obvious, and the very few remaining points were for eventual emergencies. Either way, Issei was more than satisfied, though he wished to test this newfound strength. This day had been way more eventful than he ever could have imagined it would be a few weeks ago. A lot of things happened, and while he wasn't physically tired, he was a bit mentally. Stretching his arm as he got up with a smile on his face, Issei did not notice the towel around his waist falling on the water. "Dad, is it normal to be big like that?" A little boy asked, pointing at Issei and his most important lower member. "No, forgot about that, son," he said while making his kid look to the other side. "The buck is wrong with kids nowadays. Is that boy a horse?" Issei would only notice the lack of his towel when he reached his clothing. After putting on his clothes, the chestnut was about to fall asleep for hours and hours. He just entered his room when the system sent a notification. A rift in space was detected. 10 points are required to start the dungeon. Would you like to start it? YN. All his mental fatigue was gone and he clicked yes without having to think twice about it. Dungeon. Crypt of Diamonds. Level of danger. Moderated. Would you like to enter? YN. He didn't even know why the system asked, he just clicked yes. An entrance in the form of a portal of energy formed in front of his eyes and Issei excitedly entered it. All this while Drake also paid close attention, just as interested as her partner. However, the moment Issei put his foot in the portal and entered to go to the dungeon, a new notification appeared. Bad luck I take effect. The space suffered heavy and abrupt changes, the connection with the Crypt of Diamonds was lost and a new connection was made. Dungeon. Corrupted Kingdom. Level of danger. Deathly. Proceeding to enter. Chapter 4. Corrupted Kingdom Transformation. Corrupted Kingdom Transformation. Issei didn't have time to complain about his luck. As soon as he got into the dungeon, he fell to his knees. Air was lacking in his lungs and it felt like acid had been thrown in his skin. The moment he arrived, that world seemed to decree his death. "Partner!" Greg screamed with genuine fear. This had all been too soon and unexpected, even she got taken by surprise. The environment around the user is deemed deadly to human beings. As it is, the energy in the surroundings will cause the user's death. That's not good. Proceeding to find countermeasures. The best method of survival was found. Would the user like to proceed with it? YN. Yes. Issei didn't understand what was happening, why he felt like his body was burning in acid, or what the system would do, but he knew that if things stayed like this, not only would the suffering increase, he would also die. As such, he only saw the word survive in the question. He didn't have to think about it. His boosted gear appeared in his left hand, even without him calling for it. What is this? What followed toppled even Drake's understanding of the longiness. From the gem in the gauntlet, green energy was generated, covering Issei's whole body. Brain wasn't a foreigner to part of the process Issei was passing through, as previous users did something similar, but on a lesser scale. Exchanging parts of the user's body to draconic parts was always a possibility to the boosted gear users, though they usually didn't, as actually controlling the draconic energy that came with it and getting used to their new limbs was more of a hassle for most humans than one might imagine at first. Still, once in a while, someone made use of this function in times of necessity in exchange for a bit more power, usually through the balance break. Drake always theorized that since Issei already had some level of Tauki control and a previous supernatural heritage, he might have been able to do the draconification and control it, though she never raised this possibility as she didn't deem it necessary. But now what the system was doing was exactly forcing that transformation throughout his body. His muscles bulged inhumanly and his skin was passing through a visual change as they became thicker and sturdier, more akin to scales than human skin. But that was not all, as from 10 to 10 seconds, the gem on the gauntlet would shine and something else changed in Issei's body. As dragon aura surrounded his body, so did his Tauki and Firefox, almost like it was literally burning his humanity away. Issei didn't know how long things stayed like this, he just could feel the pain throughout his body that it was slowly decreasing. He also knew he was changing, his mind was still too clouded to feel it in its entirety, but one of the changes was that he felt his kitsune powers much stronger than they ever were. Having these powers since childhood, Issei was intrinsically familiar with them. The sudden growth in his kitsune nature was the most noticeable detail, but he also knew there were other differences in his body. After a while, and he had no clue how long of a while, the boosted gear retreated and the process was done. "I think being hit by a truck wouldn't hurt so much, Drake, what happened?" he asked while still lying down, feeling exhausted. His whole body felt tired and numb. "I think is better if you take a look for yourself." That made the chestnut raise an eyebrow. He noticed that the Dragon Empress was baffled and this was the first time he saw her like this. Curious, Issei stuck his hand as he took a mirror out of the boosted gear's storage. The first difference he noticed came before he even looked at the mirror. His arm was covered in golden scales and had a draconic appearance, and in his hands, his nails were now claws. His arm also seemed bigger and thicker. What the buck? He tried to get up, only to fall back. His sense of equilibrium was affected by the changes his body passed through, but there was something else that came to affect him. There was something at the base of his spine, Issei could feel it and could feel that it was moving instinctively. He reached to grab it and brought it to his eyes to see his own tail. What the buck? The tail was also scaled and golden in color. It resembled a mix between a dragon and a kitsune's tail, and while Issei was astonished it escaped his hands. It did seem to act a bit more like a kitsune's tail than a dragon's tail after all. Issei's whole body was like that now. He had gotten a head or two taller, his muscles had also grown, meaning his whole silhouette had been enhanced. Golden scales covered a lot of his body, except his hick, his torso, and his face, though he only paid attention to the first one. Oh, that grown as well. Can you focus? Greg, rolling her eyes. Issei finally stopped looking at his body and looked at the mirror to see his face. Well, it was arguably the same, there were some scales around his chin, but mostly his still seemed to be covered in skin, though a red one. But besides that, now one of his eyes was of strong green and was reptilian, like that of a dragon, and the other was golden and like that of a fox, or a kitsune in this case. His teeth were sharp, horns prostrated themselves from the sides of his forehead, and most surprisingly, fox ears were now on top of his head. At least he kept his hair. And to top it all, he also had wings on his back, but failed to control them at the moment. Okay, what the buck happened? Humans cannot survive in this environment, it is extremely corrosive to their bodies. Since the user's survival is the system's utmost priority, measures to keep you alive were taken. The better approach that the system could envision was to use the functions on the boosted gear to convert the user into a half-dragon. However, that would have taken too much of a toll and could be unstable, as such the power to boost and transfer was also used, but in the user's blood, to increase the percentage of kitsune blood, mixing it in the dragon's transformation, making it easier and stabler. It also made the process take longer, but it was worth it. Currently, it is recommended for the user to rest, as the process took a lot, physically and mentally. In case you are wondering, currently you are 60% dragon kitsune and 40% human. That was a lot all of a sudden. In a moment, Issei was in an inn, in the next he found a dungeon, and now he was a hybrid of a dragon kitsune. He wasn't all that bothered about losing part of his humanity, he still felt like himself after all, and he always had associated a great part of himself as a dragon and as a kitsune. Still, it was a lot of things to take at once. That's even knowing the system could do a lot, I never saw a phenomenon like this. Since Issei was fine, Drake showed more interest and curiosity in her partner's transformation. I should look at my status. He said, opening his status window. Main skill S. 9-star Hegemon body art. The warriors of the 9 stars are the manifestation of daring and determination in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Recognized as the bravest and most fearsome warriors. They are not afraid of death and never give up before their adversary. Armed with their wills unyielding, they defy the heavens and their lord, the lord of the 9 stars. Despite their fall, their will is eternal. As long as the stars exist, they will continue to fight for eternity. However, the war is long gone, and no, you are the heir of the 9 stars that came after the chosen one, the lord of the 9 stars, making you the heir of the true lord. Your 9-star Hegemon body art is modified to follow the chosen one, the lord. Boosted gear Red Dragon Emperor. The one that rampaged through the war of the 3 factions is now sealed in your soul, and you must carry his eternal battle against his, and now your, rival, Albion, the White Dragon Emperor. Even if you were not born as one, this gear gives you the traits and characteristics of a dragon, making you practically one by everything but the body. By the powers of the Dragon of Domination, you can boost yourself, increasing your powers twice per boost. Status. Species. Half-dragon half-kitsune one-tailed draconic fox the Red Dragon Emperor. Level. 17,066.535. Talent rank. 2s+. HP. 63 20 99 25. Sta. 113,233. Bra. 122 6,150. Bic. 54,100. Holy shit. Once more his HP, stamina, draconic energy and Yaki had taken a huge jump compared to before. Though they were ridiculously low now because of the energy that needed to be used for Issei's transformation. The stamina especially explained why he felt so tired. You had so much of it before, it is simply natural for you to have even more now that you have turned into a hybrid. Braig however wasn't as impressed, this result was more or less what she expected after Issei's transformation. Still, what that talent represents. It seems to have taken a huge leap. Her question didn't take too long to be answered. The system calculates the talent of the user, the higher the talent, the more energy can be taken from their actions. For example, a higher talent means that each action using a skill gets more experience from it, and each time the user levels up, more points are added to the status. Besides some other functions as well. This explains the huge jump when I got to level 17. He was quite proud of being determined with a talent so high, and Drake felt the same for Issei. After that, they kept looking at his other status. STR. 413. X. 413. Res. 413. AGI. 413. Int. 88, 98. WIS. 69. CHR. 96. LCK. -30. Status points. 9 SP cannot be distributed to LCK. Traits. Strength of a mountain 3 precision X 3 diamond skin 3 lightning movement 3 fast mind I enhanced spirit I attractive I bad luck I. EP dungeon points. 6. Points. 0. Strength, dexterity, resistance and agility had been the most affected by his transformation, while intelligence and wisdom didn't increase by much. Charisma also hadn't grown too much compared to the first 4, but it had when compared to intelligence and wisdom. I guess those changes are to be expected. He wasn't too surprised about the way the status had been increased. If anything, the chestnut just wanted to test his new strength. He had grown too fast in a short time without having the opportunity to test his power. Issei was about to see what changed in his skills when detection, and something else he wasn't familiar with it, went on automatically, making him realize something was approaching. The skills would have to wait. Issei didn't know if his clothes would fit his new body, so he just got underwear and a pant out of his gear and put them on. They tore apart from around his knees to below, but managed to fit. Considering his low energy, Issei preferred to avoid conflict at the moment. He also didn't know anything about what enemies would be here, so it was better to hide and watch first. Why nothing came before though? You were emitting so much energy that probably kept anything away. He nodded. Drake's explanation was the most logical, and only one really. He finally had a chance to pay attention to his surroundings. Issei was in the ruins of a city that had what looked to the Hyoudou, old British architecture. Though his knowledge of that type of architecture came mostly from games and some manga and anime, so he could be off. The sky was dark, but not like it was nighttime, instead the clouds were of a heavy gray color, giving quite the oppressive feeling. And even if it no longer affected him, he could still feel in the air the type of energy that could have led to his death had he stayed purely human. Maybe is something like radiation. Probably, but that's not what you need to worry about now, right? Issei nodded and looked around, seeing that there was the skeleton of an old house next to him. Activating his disguise and stealth skill, he moved inside and stayed down, trying to keep his presence as unnoticeable as possible. Stealth has leveled up to level 2. That was fast and convenient, a high talent really seemed like a handy thing to have. He stayed making no noise, and stealth leveled up one more time before something arrived. To take a look at the newcomers, Issei looked through a hole in the wall. They looked like overgrown tigers with gray skin, had some bones covering parts of their body like armor, and were 5 meters tall. They looked around, sniffing something, Issei in this case. However, even with his smell, they were unable to find his presence. Stealth has leveled up to level 9. Disguise has leveled up to level 19. Even without fighting, he was making good use of the situation. There were only 3 of those monsters, so he used the opportunity to analyze them. Name? None. Race? Cursed wild feline. Status? Alive. Class? Middle level threat. Description: descendants of felines that were once domesticated but mutated after the meteor. After countless generations, they became mindless beasts that get stronger by eating everything in their path, only trusting their kin. Analysis has leveled up to level 4. That was good to know. Issei debated fighting them now or not and looked at his status again. HP: 69 20 99 25. Sta: 613,233. Bra: 572 6,150ths. IC: 410 4,100ths. It was far from a good recovery or even a decent one, but it was something, and there was only so much time the chestnut was willing to spend hiding. Before he took any action though, he attempted to use analysis a bit more, just to level it up one more time. Issei used it on the things in his surround, the ground, rocks, and even the ruins of the house he was in. Didn't learn anything useful, but it did get analysis to level 5, and that was already enough for him. He didn't have too much energy yet, but Issei couldn't be bothered by it. Thanks to disguise he could use his Yaki and draconic energy without being noticed, and he did just so, concentrating both energies on his index finger and middle finger, in his left hand. Dragon aura manipulation has leveled up. Yaki manipulation has leveled up. Those updates appeared for a while after he started channeling his powers. His skills started leveling up like crazy after his transformation, and he would make the best of it. A sphere of mixed energy of Tauki and draconic aura formed in Issei's hand as he looked at the wild felines from his position. The 3 seemed to notice something was off as their fur was slightly up. The Hyoudou jumped out of the house, he was done waiting. His sudden appearance, especially with him being so near them, surprised the creatures, who were 1 second too slow to react. All that Issei needed. Special cannon. The concentrated beam of energy hit one of the felines right in the forehead, passing through its skull and killing the beast right on the spot. The other two felines didn't seem too bothered by their fallen comrade, as they ignored its dead body and jumped at Issei. The dodge Issei used dash and went to the side. His unfamiliarity with his new body, however, meant that he overdid it, causing him to lose his equilibrium and almost fall. Fortunately, he still had his whole experience and years of training under Drake's guidance. He stopped his fall with one hand and threw himself back into the air before getting back on the ground. His movement was clanky and he almost fell again but managed to stay standing. He had got quite a distance from the felines, but one of them tried to cover it by jumping and biting him. The chestnut reacted instinctively by raising his left hand in a finger gun with draconic energy at his index finger. Dragon shoot. He managed to put enough energy into the shoot that when it entered through the feline's mouth, it exploded the beast's head, burning any remains that could have been splattered around. Before he could take a breath, the final beast was in front of him, with its claws descending to cut down Issei. Once more his instincts, weirdly better than ever, seemed to move him as he manifested the boosted gear and used it as an improvised shield, which he uses to push the claw away from him, leaving the feline's guard open. Boost. He followed that by punching the feline, who coughed something that looked like blood but was much darker. Issei didn't have time to think about it, as he couldn't give the monster a chance to react. He dashed once more and finished with a punch, one that felt much stronger than usual. As a result, the remaining feline had its body broken in what looked like an arc and more blood gushed out of its mouth. The boost loses its effect and Issei sits on the ground. Well, guess that's a good start. Could make use of a nap now though. He didn't have too much time to take a break as more wild felines appeared, surrounding him in various directions. Fuck, I really should have taken a nap before. Chapter 5. Recovering battling. Issei liked to believe that usually, he knew the type of things he got himself into. Having a million-years-old dragon in his soul helped with that since she usually informed him what he needed to know. It wasn't the case in a world Drake had never been into, however. Dragon shoot. He was surrounded by large monsters, felines, wolves, bats, and even monkeys. They were all at least 5 meters tall or more and had the same characteristics as the cursed wild felines, meaning bones covering their bodies with gray skin. There were at least 10 moving around the chestnut who had yet to make a recovery to his peak status. Level 1711.00066.535. Talent rank 2s plus. HP 63919925. Sta 540 13,233. Bra 610 6150. Ick 394,100. Only his draconic energy had recovered a bit while everything else went down. The only silver lining was that these creatures gave a lot of exp. But the chestnut was starting to question if that was enough compensation at this point. If you keep like this, you will be too tired while getting surrounded by more and more of them. Braig pointed out to her partner while he managed to dodge another attack from one of the cursed wild monkeys. He punched the creature with a fist covered in flames that spread, consuming the monster's whole body. One of the things Issei had learned soon enough was that these creatures did not like his fire. He wasn't able to kill the monkey right now, but the fire would do the job soon enough. Dragon Foxfire has leveled up. I know I will hide, but I have to kill the bats before. Inside his soul, Drake nodded in agreement with Issei's decision. Since the cursed wild bats would be able to follow his moves from the air, they are the ones he should prioritize getting rid of. Issei also heard the faint sound of more monsters approaching, so he acted fast. Here goes nothing. Hovering his hands with fire, Issei spins himself around, forming 2 fire tornadoes. Instinctively, the creatures screeched and jumped to avoid the tornadoes. It had taken him quite a lot of his current not-so-abundant reserves of Yaki, but it was good enough to keep the cursed wild beasts away, even if only momentarily. With all strength he could put in his legs, Issei jumped, covering a huge distance from the ground thanks to his greatly improved strength. In his hands, 2 discs made with draconic aura started to form. They lacked a certain refinement and format, being something that the chestnut was trying to use as fast as possible, unfortunately, would compromise some of the quality of the attack. Boost transfer. Thankfully, Issei's powers allowed him to make it worth it. He threw the disc at the 2 bats that tried to dodge, but Issei could still control and readjust the attacks at some level, and doing so hit 1 wing of each. And to top it off, Issei put his hands in the direction of their faces and threw fireballs at their faces. Being at the exact point he wanted to be, Issei used his fire to move while in the air, with his wings moving by instinct helping a little. He wasn't flying as much as he was gliding, and thanks to the fire he managed to cover 3 blocks before stopping and hiding his presence with his stealth and disguise skill. He jumped from the roof of one house at least twice and finally stopped, entering the house by a chimney. The interior of the house was a wreck, with everything either destroyed, gone, unrecognizable, or covered in dust. Thankfully, there was no presence there, so Issei finally relaxed. That was intense. It was your first real battle in years, and I would say you did quite well. Especially in your current state. The noises that were happening outside seemed to agree with Drake. Issei had managed to run away just in time, as by now, everything around was already attracted to their previous location. Staying there would have just led to him being overwhelmed. Taking a deep breath, he sat down and finally took his time to see the notifications he was constantly getting mid-battle. The user's race was updated. New skills acquired. New status calculated. Stealth has leveled up to level 11. Disguise has leveled up to level 19. Idol acquired. Hiding in plain sight. Dragon Aura Manipulation has leveled up to level 9. Yaki Manipulation has leveled up to level 9. Draconic Kitsune Instincts has leveled up to level 5. Basic Martial Arts evolved into Intermediate Martial Arts level 1. Analysis leveled up to level 7. Ho ho, so it wasn't for nothing. The various notifications of level up and the new title made his eyes shiny as if Christmas had arrived earlier. Impressive, the transformation did wonders to allow you to improve on those skills so fastly. Drake added, seeing how Issei leveled up a lot even in skills he just acquired. The thought of what he would be able to do after a longer time with the system filled the Red Dragon Empress with excitement. Let me see what I get. Dragon Punch LV-15, a punch of concentrated strength with the power of a dragon. Can give the target an effective dizziness sometimes. Dragon Kick LV-13, a kick of concentrated strength with the power of a dragon. Can give the target an effective dizziness sometimes. Intermediate Martial Arts LV-1, through battle, you walked into the path of martial arts seeking truth and improvement through your fists. Your technique is now more refined and more powerful, improving your strength and battle senses. His punch and kick skills had been adapted to his new form, though he would have to see how they changed in battle. Cool, I don't get what it means, but sounds cool. He didn't get what was the difference between this and his previous martial arts, except for the obvious fact that he had got better at it. A long time ago, before humans came up with their magic systems or learned from the other factions, they counted on their bodies and martial arts to survive. I was always of the belief that humans could achieve their peak just through those arts, so I think you should put more of your time into this skill. Issei whistled at that. Drake had advised him countless times through all these years, but it was the first time she sounded like this was something the chestnut could not set aside. Yeah, I also want to see where this will go. I have the feeling that it will sooner or later give me something great. Of course, Issei not only had no issue with following her advice, he was actually quite excited about it. Strength of Will LV-4, resisting through the harshest conditions and showing your will, the power of the spirit. The body might break, but the will is eternal. Dragon Aura Manipulation LV-9, control over the user's draconic aura. Yaki Manipulation LV-9, control over the user's Yaki. Dragon Breath LV-1, a dragon signature move, however, the flames are now dragon fox in nature, meaning that is stronger than the usual dragon breath. Dragon Roar LV-1, a manifestation of a dragon's pride and power through wild roar that can inflict fear in enemies. Dragon Kitsune Instincts LV-5, both dragons and kitsunes have sharp instincts, and as a hybrid, the user's instincts are even sharper and more accurate. Shapeshifting LV-1, a kitsune has the skill to shapeshift, assuming any form desired. The lower the level of the skill, the more likely for flaws to appear in the transformation, or for others to see through it. Illusion LV-1, kitsune are tricksters, making others believe that they are seeing, hearing, and sensing what might not be there. Dream Manipulation LV-1, the power of kitsunes to enter and manipulate others' dreams. Life Force Absorption LV-1, the power to feed on the life force of other beings. Yaokai Magic LV-1, using the elements as a channel, Yaokais manifest their magic, manipulating the world and their surroundings. Redirecting LV-1 allows the user to redirect a strike aimed towards him. The redirect strike can potentially be sent back to another enemy or even the one that originally struck. Except for the last skill, one that he acquired mid-battle, all the others clearly came as a result of his transformation, even strength of will. That's a lot. I thought I would only get the basic stuff from my kitsune lineage, wasn't expecting something like life absorption or dream manipulation. Issei was a bit blown away by how many skills he had acquired after transforming. He expected a few, mostly on the dragon side of things, but hadn't even thought about some of the classical kitsune abilities. All very powerful abilities. Though a few of them might be harder to get the chance to use, they are all great. The surprise Issei felt was shared by Drake, and so was the excitement of what could be achieved with those skills. Issei already was her favorite before and she knew he could eventually become the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, but now. She was expecting him to do so in time record and it would be extremely enjoyable to watch it happen. It took a while and Issei had to do his best to calm down and not test these skills. He couldn't risk getting unwanted attention, especially while still recovering. The shop must have something, wouldn't complain if there were some porn as well. The chestnut opened the shop praying. If the prayers were to find Erage games, hentai ovas and magazines, or actual useful things in his situation, only he and Drang that ignored him all the way through knew. As soon as he opened the shop, a gigantic list of items appeared in front of him. It was a lot and he would love to take a good look at the vast options presented, but for now, Issei contented himself with what was necessary and right at the top of the list, something that was probably handpicked by the system taking in consideration his current predicament. Recovery potion. 1100 points. It will recover the user up to 35% of his original status. 1000 points was pretty much all Issei had after killing some of the monsters. It would take all points he had, but the chestnut did not hesitate to buy that potion. Even if he looked for specialized ones, it would in the end probably require him to spend the same number of points for similar results. This way he would at least have a general recovery faster. The manifestation of energy formed in Issei's right and the potion manifested from it in less than a second. Letting a whistle out, the Hyoudou used his analysis of the object. Item. Recovery potion. Description. A recovery potion formed from 1100 points. It will recover whoever uses it up to 35% of their original state. That's all I will get. With his analysis currently at level 7, Issei expected much more from the description but was left disappointed. It is to be expected from something that came from the system itself. Is perhaps too complex for you to have a decent analysis of. Issei could only agree with that estimation, even if he felt like it was a shame. He wasn't quite done though and opened the potion and put a drop of it in his index finger before licking. He hoped that, with his acquired knowledge about alchemy, even if it was a different type of it, he could identify or understand something from the potion. Issei focused on the taste and did his best to identify whatever he could from it, but it was almost impossible. It wasn't a complete waste as he could very vaguely sense something he thought to be similar to some ingredients he had in his head. It couldn't get any vaguer than that. Alchemy has leveled up to level 2. At least it wasn't a wasted effort. Having no more reason to waste time, Issei drank everything. Sweet. It felt like he was drinking some sort of liquid honey. It was sweet and nice, and at the same time, it didn't feel like anything Issei ever had. Level. 1711.00066.535. HP. 98659925. Sta. 5172 Bra. 2763 Ick. 1825 4100. The effect was instantaneous and Issei felt reinvigorated. He wasn't fully restored, but his situation was much better and he would take what he had. Impressive. As far as I am aware, no healing magic cannot restore energy and stamina like this. With that, they had a small peek on the things that would be possible with the system. Common sense would have to be forgotten. Finally feeling secure and confident to take on the dungeon, even if this whole place didn't resemble one. Issei first took a casual look at his surroundings, not expecting to find anything useful. And he was correct for the most part, since all that was around were wreckages of a civilian house. Most furniture was either in a state of being completely torched or melted, or there were no remains of it. It was a testament to how ruined this whole world was and for how long. Dust was so thick that Issei imagined not even a monster had entered this room for ages. But something did catch Issei's eyes. An old and open book, with burned marks in pages so old that they seemed like they would crumble at any time. Item. Old burned book. Description. The remains of a book that contained introductory information about one of the magic systems that belonged to this world. Was bought by a soldier as a gift to his son before death came. Would you like to restore the book? Why and what happened to this place? Neither he nor Drake had a way to know. He didn't think about it before, but he was in the ruins of a destroyed world with no information about how it got to this state, while seemingly being the only conscious and non-hostile being in the place. It was starting to creep him out. Letting those thoughts aside, Issei clicked on yes and watched the book disappear in front of his eyes. It is in the gear storage. At that point, they weren't surprised by what the system could do anymore. Issei simply looked inside the boosted gear storage system and besides his personal stuff like clothes, food and drinks, porn magazines and wallet, in the middle of all that was the book covered by energy. Time for restoration. 50 hours. What do you think might come out of this? Is magic from a completely different world? Maybe is similar to some of ours, maybe is completely different. Whatever came out of this, Drake knew they were in for a surprise. Having done what he could to recover, Issei looked outside the window, wanting to have an idea of what was expected of him once he got out. Do you still want to remain here? The chestnut nodded. At least recover some points. I still need the ingredients to do the wind manor pill. At least these monsters give those like candy. After that, we start seeking a way out. If it wasn't for absolute necessity, he would have kept those points to buy the ingredients for the pill. At least they were spent with something useful. Issei looked out and regretted. The first thing he noticed was a creature, a mannequin covered in dark vines moving around. The way it moved was unnatural, it was a creature that could be part of a horror story. Even with his powers and strength, it still creeped Issei out. Name? None. Race? Vines of possession. Status? Undead. Class? Mid-level threat. Description: the resentment of the dead exposed to a type of evil energy generated by these vines that took over what could find to use as a body. There were other things as well, but all of which Issei had already seen, like the cursed wild monkeys, wolves, and felines. A smile formed on the chestnut lips, making Drake aware of what was about to come. Throwing caution to the wind, Issei deactivated stealth and disguise and put his arms forward, outside of the window. I haven't used this since I was a kid. Devastation wave. Draconic energy and Yaki accumulated in Issei's hand in enough quantity to make a sphere the size of a basketball. He could feel his energy being drained once more, but it would be worth it. Every being around became aware of Issei and started running in his direction as the chestnut jumped from the window. At the same time, a wave of the mix of his draconic energy and Yaki was released upon the creatures, hitting first the vines. Dragon Fox devastation wave has leveled up. The monster did resist for a few seconds before its body was reduced to nothing. The same destiny fell upon the other creatures, but they could resist for even less time. Between the time Issei jumped and touched the ground, he only gave a few steps before stopping the use of this skill. And with just that, the number of remaining monsters was less than half the original. Level: 1720.00066.535. Talent rank: 2s+. HP: 98659925. Sta: 5157 13233. Bra: 1412 6150. Bic: 1023 4100. His draconic energy and Yaki had dropped again, but Issei thought it was all worth it. Yes, bow down to me first is the Kamehame, next I will achieve Super Saiyan. His screams could not be comprehended by the creatures that ignored it and attacked him. During all this time, the only thing Drake did was sight. Boost. STR. 413, 826. Dex. 413, 826. Res. 413, 826. Agi. 413, 826. Int. 88, 98. Wis. 69. CHR. 96. LCK. -30. With his power doubling, Issei avoided all the attacks with ease. Now that his body wasn't on the verge of running out of any type of energy and had to depend on adrenaline and the fact that if he stopped, he would die. He also could swear that the monsters now were moving slower and more predictable. Is that because of the evolution of martial arts? The chestnut had a feeling that it was, and he was enjoying it. He avoided the monsters with ease and always responded with a punch or a kick covered with flames. More and more arrived, but just as Issei could begin to have problems with them. Boost. With that, he had no longer an issue dealing with the cursed wild creatures. His fists pierced through their bodies, his flames being the final touch that added to their demise. As Issei fought, he moved. Well, this passed unnoticed by himself. Drake realized his footwork was much better and more mature, more fitting of an actual martial artist. The way he moved around also showed that his punches and kicks had a power to them that was vastly superior to whatever Issei could do before. Issei had lost himself to the feeling of battle, his body was just moving by instinct and any notifications went ignored. He was enjoying the battle like he never did before, it felt like he was doing just what he was born to. It was as enjoyable as good porn even. A part of him perhaps considered that even more. Lost to that feeling, he only noticed that there were no more monsters after punching another wolf, causing the fire on his fist to take the form of a dragon swallowing the wolf and turning it into ashes. The chestnut simply left a whistle. Wait. Where am I? Only then he noticed his surroundings had changed. Fufu, losing yourself to the feeling of battle. You are truly coming out very well with this experience. Drake couldn't be happier with that. Losing myself to battle. I remember you mentioned this a few times. Never thought it would happen to me. Issei did enjoy it and was a bit disappointed that it had come to an end. That raised the question of why the creatures stopped. Why is there nothing else here? Isekai Issei noticed to be in a more desolate part of town, with few to no buildings around. That is until he looked behind. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.